Your retirement account just became your mom's nursing home fund. You didn't plan it, nobody warned you. But here's the number that changes everything: $127,750 per year. That's what a private nursing home room costs today, more than most Americans earn in a year. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Your laptop's open with 3 tabs comparing nursing home costs in your area. Your phone keeps buzzing with texts from your 17-year-old asking about college application deadlines. From down the hallway, you hear your mom calling your name because she needs help getting to the bathroom. Again. And somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, you realize you haven't contributed to your 401k in 8 months. The coffee's gone cold in your cup. Your spouse is already asleep because someone has to function tomorrow. Your college fund spreadsheet is open in another tab showing numbers that don't add up anymore. And you're doing that thing you've been doing every night for the past 6 months, trying to figure out how to pay for everything without sacrificing anyone's future. Except the math isn't mathing. It never does when you're trapped in the middle. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself you'll catch up on retirement savings next year. You tell yourself you can handle this. But here's what you're not telling yourself. You're standing in one of the most dangerous financial traps in America, and most people don't realize they're in it until it's already cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. The sandwich generation trap isn't just stressful, it's financially devastating in ways that don't show up until it's too late. Hi, I'm Matt. I break down the money traps nobody warns you about, and I help you build wealth without sacrificing your sanity. If that sounds good, subscribe. So let's talk about what's really happening here. Right now, there are roughly 47 million Americans caring for aging parents while simultaneously raising their own kids. And the average person in this situation is spending over $7,000 a year out of their own pocket on elder care costs. $7,000 that's not going into retirement accounts, not building emergency funds, not paying down debt, just gone. And that's just the average. Many people are spending double or triple that amount. But the real trap isn't the $7,000 you can see. It's the $300,000 you can't see disappearing from your future. Because when you stop investing in your 30s or 40s or 50s to take care of parents, you're not just losing the money you're not putting in. You're losing decades of compound growth. You're losing the most valuable years of wealth building you'll ever have. And here's what nobody tells you about this trap. Once you're in it, it typically lasts 7 to 10 years. That's 7 to 10 years of your prime earning and saving years just evaporating while you're trying to do the right thing for the people you love. Let me walk you through how this actually unfolds, because it never starts the way you think it will. It starts small. Your dad mentions he's having trouble remembering to take his medications on time. Your mom calls and casually mentions she's not driving at night anymore because the headlights bother her. These sound like normal aging, right? So you do what any good kid does. You start helping. You set up a pill organizer. You drive them to doctor's appointments. You pick up groceries on your way home from work. Maybe you hire a cleaning service to come once a month. And then 6 months later, you're somehow spending 15 hours a week on caregiving tasks you didn't even know existed 6 months ago. You're managing medications, scheduling specialist appointments, arguing with insurance companies, and trying to figure out why their bank account is suddenly overdrawn. This is how the sandwich generation trap works. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps up in tiny increments until one day you realize you're spending more time managing your parents' lives than your own financial future. And here's what nobody tells you about those tiny increments. They're expensive in ways that don't show up on any bill. You're leaving work early for appointments, which means you're not taking on the projects that lead to promotions. You're using vacation days to recover from burnout instead of recharging. You're too exhausted to meal plan, so you're spending an extra $300 a month on takeout. And the actual financial costs, they're hiding everywhere. The home modifications, the medical alert system, the part-time caregiver at $35 an hour, the adult daycare program at $90 per day, the special medical equipment Medicare doesn't cover, the copays that add up to hundreds every month. But here's what nobody tells you about elder care costs. Everyone underestimates them by at least 50%. They think about medical bills and maybe a nursing home eventually, but they forget the 1,000 invisible costs that show up month after month. And then there's the opportunity cost that nobody calculates until years later. Remember that promotion you didn't go for because you didn't have the bandwidth? That was probably worth $15,000 a year in additional salary. Remember those 8 months you paused your retirement contributions? If you're 45 years old, that 8 months represents about $60,000 you won't have at retirement when you account for compound growth over 20 years. Let's talk about what that actually looks like in your daily life. You're working the same 40 hours, but you're distracted. You're on your phone with insurance companies during lunch. You're leaving early once a week for appointments. You're exhausted, so you're not your sharpest in meetings. And the people who are getting promoted, they don't have a parent calling 3 times a day asking how to reset their email password. They don't have to coordinate 3 different specialist appointments while hitting quarterly targets. They're all in on work. You're split across 3 generations. The financial damage of the sandwich generation trap isn't just what you're spending, it's what you're not earning and not investing while you're trapped in survival mode. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real numbers, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a study from MetLife that found 67% of family caregivers end up raiding their retirement accounts to pay for elder care expenses. 2/3 of people are literally stealing from their own future to handle the present. And when you pull money out of a 401k or IRA in your 40s or 50s, you're not just losing that money, you're losing what that money would have become. Here's what I mean. Let's say you're 48 and you pull $20,000 out of your retirement account to help cover nursing home costs. You tell yourself you'll pay it back, but that $20,000 is just gone. If it had stayed invested for 17 years at 7% return, it would have been $63,000. You didn't just lose $20,000, you lost $63,000 in retirement security. Now multiply that across years of caregiving. A woman I know spent 8 years as primary caregiver for both parents. Those 8 years cost her approximately $340,000 in lost retirement wealth. Not because she was bad with money, because she stopped investing during her peak earning years. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. The sandwich generation trap hits you during the exact years when compound interest matters most. Your 40s and 50s are when every dollar you invest has 15 to 25 years to grow before retirement. These are the years that determine whether you retire comfortably or struggle. And these are precisely the years when caring for aging parents peaks. It's almost perfectly designed to destroy your financial future while you're distracted trying to save your parents. Picture yourself at 67. You finally stopped caregiving because your parents have passed. Your kids are independent, and now you're staring at a retirement account that should have $2 million but has $400,000 because you paused contributions, took withdrawals, and stayed in a flexible job instead of one that paid better. Are you in this trap right now? Are you already feeling the squeeze of trying to fund college accounts while also researching memory care facilities? Are you already making those tiny compromises that seem manageable today but compound into financial disaster over years? Because here's what happens if you don't address this directly. You end up being the next generation that needs financial help from your kids. You become the person your children are researching elder care costs for in 15 years. The sandwich generation trap doesn't just affect you, it creates a cycle that passes down through families until someone breaks it with intentional planning and difficult conversations. We're halfway through this video. Stay with me, because in 90 seconds, I'm going to show you the 4 strategies that actually work to protect your financial future while still caring for the people you love. But first, you need to understand why most people's instinctive response to this trap makes everything worse. The instinct when you're squeezed financially is to just work harder and sacrifice more. But in the sandwich generation trap, things don't get better, they escalate. Elder care needs increase over time. Your parents will need more help next year, not less. So the sacrifice approach doesn't solve anything. The people who successfully navigate this do something counterintuitive. They set boundaries around their financial future and defend them even when it feels selfish. They keep investing in retirement even when there are elder care bills. They have uncomfortable conversations about money before crisis hits. They build systems that don't depend on their constant involvement. So let's talk about what actually works. Not theory, not what sounds nice, what actually works when you're living this reality. Strategy 1. You have to have the financial conversation with your parents before there's a crisis, not during, before. I know talking about money and mortality with your parents feels impossible, but having this conversation 3 years too early is infinitely better than having it 3 days too late. Here's what this conversation needs to cover. What assets do your parents have? What's their monthly income, monthly expenses? Do they have long-term care insurance? If not, what's their plan for covering care costs Medicare won't pay? And the critical question most people skip, what do they expect from you financially? Most adult children and parents operate on completely different assumptions. You need to know the reality of their financial situation and agree on clear boundaries. And when I say clear boundaries, I mean numbers, not feelings. Numbers. You cannot promise to cover whatever you need because you have no idea what that will cost. But you can say, I can contribute up to $500 a month, or I can provide 15 hours a week of hands-on help. Whatever your actual capacity is, name it clearly before anyone's in crisis mode. Strategy 2. You need to model out the real costs and build them into your budget now, not next year when things get worse. Now. Because if you wait until you're in crisis, you'll handle it with emergency measures that destroy your long-term financial stability. Credit cards, retirement account withdrawals, paused investments, all the things that feel necessary in the moment but compound into disaster over years. Here's what modeling the costs actually means. Research what care costs in your area. Right now, the national median for a nursing home is about $108,000 a year. Home health aides are running $30 to $35 an hour. Medicare has significant gaps that can run $5,000 to $12,000 annually out of pocket. Now, what can your parents actually afford based on their assets and income? What's the gap? Can it be closed with long-term care insurance, Medicaid planning, or will it require family financial support? If it requires family support, how much, for how long, and who's contributing? Most families never do this math until they're forced to, but if you do it now, while your parents are still relatively healthy, you have time to make strategic moves. Purchase long-term care insurance if they're still insurable, restructure assets for Medicaid, have family meetings where everyone agrees on contributions, adjust your own budget without destroying your retirement. Strategy 3. Automate your own financial future so it's protected regardless of what happens with caregiving. This is the one that saves people. Set up automatic retirement contributions that hit before you see the money. Set up automatic transfers to savings and debt payments. Automate everything related to your financial stability so it happens without requiring willpower during the exhausting years of caregiving. Because here's what happens if you don't automate. You'll have every intention of saving, but when your dad has a health crisis and you're dealing with hospital logistics, you'll forget to transfer money to savings. When your mom needs a home modification, you'll skip retirement contributions and tell yourself you'll catch up next month. But you won't. There will be another crisis. The only way to protect your financial future during caregiving years is to remove yourself from the decision. Make the decision once when you're thinking clearly. This is the minimum I will save every month, no matter what. Then automate it so you don't have to remake that decision while exhausted and tempted to sacrifice your future. Strategy 4. You have to build a support system that doesn't depend entirely on you, and you have to do it before you're burned out. Most people wait until they can't handle it anymore, but by then you're making desperate decisions from complete exhaustion. Here's what a real support system looks like. Multiple family members with specific responsibilities. Professional care providers handling tasks that don't require family. Technology and services eliminating tasks entirely. Community resources researched in advance. But building this requires that uncomfortable conversation where you tell your siblings they need to contribute financially if they're not contributing time. Where you tell your parents that staying in their home might not be sustainable. Where you acknowledge that one person cannot handle all of this alone without destroying their own life. Imagine having this conversation. Mom, Dad, I love you and I'm committed to making sure you get excellent care. But I need to be honest about what I can realistically handle. I can visit twice a week and manage your medical appointments, but I cannot be the person you call every time you need something done around the house. We need to hire someone for that, or we need to look at living situations where those services are included. Does that feel harsh? Maybe, but you know what's actually harsh? Burning yourself out for 3 years until you end up depressed, broke, and unable to help anyone. Destroying your own retirement and becoming the next generation that needs financial rescue from your kids. Write this down. You cannot sacrifice your financial future to protect someone else's lifestyle preferences. You can sacrifice some to help with essential care needs, but if your parents want expensive options they cannot afford and you're expected to cover the gap while they refuse to make lifestyle adjustments, you have to be able to say no. Not because you don't love them, because you cannot destroy 2 generations trying to prevent 1 generation from experiencing discomfort. And here's the thing about those difficult conversations. They never get easier with time. They only get harder. It's much easier to set expectations and boundaries when everyone's healthy and thinking clearly than it is to have those conversations during a medical crisis when everyone's emotional and panicking. So if you've been avoiding this conversation, I want you to schedule it this week. Not next month, not when things get bad, this week, while you still have the luxury of time to plan instead of just reacting. The fifth element is understanding the actual financial tools and programs that exist. Most people are navigating this with no idea what resources are available. They don't know what Medicare covers. They don't understand long-term care insurance. They don't know about veterans benefits or Medicaid spend-down strategies. They're just paying for everything out of pocket. You need to know that Medicare doesn't cover long-term custodial care, that elder law attorneys specialize in Medicaid planning, that area agencies on aging can connect you with local resources, that some states have programs paying family caregivers. Know these things before you need them, not after you've already spent $20,000 on care that could have been covered. So let's bring this all together into something you can actually do, not someday, starting today. Fast forward 90 days from today. Picture where you could be if you actually implement this. You've had the financial conversation with your parents, so you know exactly what their situation is. Not guessing, not assuming, actually knowing. You've modeled out the real costs based on their actual assets and likely care needs. You've set up automated contributions to your retirement accounts that are protected no matter what caregiving demands come up. You've had the family meeting where everyone agreed to specific responsibilities and contributions. You've researched the local resources and programs available in your area. And here's what's different. You're sleeping better. Not because the caregiving got easier, because you've got a plan. You're not lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering if you'll be able to retire. You're not feeling guilty every time you contribute to your 401k. You're not resentful of your siblings anymore because everyone knows exactly what they're responsible for. The stress hasn't disappeared, but the chaos has. And there's a massive difference between stressful and chaotic. You're not in crisis mode anymore because you're not just reacting to whatever happens. You've got a plan, you've got boundaries, you've got systems, and critically, you're still investing in your own future while caring for your parents. You're not sacrificing the next generation to take care of this one. Here's your 90-day action plan. In the next 2 weeks, have the initial financial conversation with your parents. You don't need to solve everything, just start. Get the basics. What do they have? What do they expect? If they're resistant, frame it as helping them plan for independence. Weeks 3 and 4, do the research. What does care cost locally? What does Medicare cover? Call your local area agency on aging. Talk to an elder law attorney for a consultation. You're just learning what options exist. Weeks 5 through 8, have the family meeting. Get siblings involved. Present information. Assign responsibilities and contributions. Get everyone to commit in writing. Prevent the default where one person does everything. Weeks 9 through 12, implement automated systems. Set up automatic retirement contributions that cannot be easily stopped. Set up emergency fund savings. Schedule quarterly reviews. But the key word is plan. You have a plan now. And here's what you need to understand. None of this makes you selfish. You can love your parents deeply and still protect your own financial future. You can be committed to their care and still set boundaries. You can honor your parents and still acknowledge that you cannot destroy your retirement to fund their preferred lifestyle. The sandwich trap exploits your love and guilt. It makes you feel like you're choosing between caring for your parents and caring for yourself. But that's a false choice. You can do both. You just have to do it intentionally with clear boundaries and realistic plans. If you're already in the trap, those conversations will be uncomfortable. Setting boundaries is hard. Watching your parents adjust is painful. But you know what's more painful? Reaching retirement with no savings, becoming the next burden your children have to handle. Breaking this cycle requires someone to make difficult decisions. That someone has to be you. What would it look like to start this conversation with your parents this week? What's the first question you need to ask? Where's the financial reality you've been avoiding? You've got 90 days to build a plan that protects everyone, or 90 days to drift further into the trap until the damage is irreversible. The choice is yours, but the clock is running.